There are a lot of people who are starting to develop a video game, but only a few of them actually manage to finish it. So in this video I'm going to start a series in which I walk you step by step through the process of creating a video game, and you are going to see all the things required to make a game, from the concept to the finished product. The first thing that we are going to do is to create a new project in Unity. Press the New button in Unity or Unity Hub and then set the name for the project. When you are done, press the Create button. Inside the project, we want to right-click under our sample scene and go to UI Canvas. This will create a new canvas on our screen. After that, we are going in the scene view and toggle the 2D view on. We want to make this game for mobile devices, so we need to set up the game window size. To do that, we go to the Game tab and we change it from free aspect to 1080 by 1920. If you don't have this size, you can simply go to the plus sign, add new item. Select your width and height, in our case it's 1080 by 1920, put the label for that resolution and hit OK. We also want to set our canvas scaler, so we click on canvas and under canvas scaler we change the UI scale mode from constant pixel size to scale with screen size. We introduce our 1080 by 1920 reference resolution and then we set the match to 0.5. Let's create our main menu screen. Right click on canvas, select create empty and set the name to be main menu. We change the anchor presets to fill the entire screen. After that, we right click on main menu, UI and hit create panel. We name it background and set the opacity to 1. The next step is to find some assets for our game. Depending on the size of your project, you could use placeholders at the start and then replace them as you implement some core features. But this project is going to be small, so we can search for assets before we implement it. Usually, I would use something from the asset store, but this time there wasn't any free asset that I liked. You can go for the paid ones, but for this tutorial we are going to use only free assets. After searching on a couple of sites, I came across the Gems UI from craftpix.net and I thought that it would be good for our memory game. This asset is free and the only thing that I had to do in order to download it was to sign in. Back in Unity, we create a new folder named Visuals, and inside this folder we create another one called UI. Then we open the asset directory that we just downloaded and we copy the background image inside our UI folder. As you can see, the UI elements are not separated like the ones from the Unity asset store, but we are going to fix that soon. We set the background to be of type Sprite 2D and UI, but we have a problem. The image resolution does not match our resolution. To fix this, we will have to crop the image, and I will use Krita, but you can use any program you like. In Krita, we select the crop tool, and then we pick an area from the image to be cropped. Then, we make the selection to have the same size as our canvas scaler and lock the aspect ratio. With the aspect ratio locked, we select an area that we like and then we save the changes. In Unity, we set the background image to be the image that we just cropped and check to see how it looks. I think that it looks pretty good. We need to obtain all the separate sprites from the Gems UI asset. To do that, we are going to open the all.psd file in Krita. My Krita knowledge is not really that good, so there might be better ways of doing this than the way that I use, but my method still does the job. What we do is to pinpoint the element or group that we want to have as a PNG by going down in the hierarchy and hitting the elements until we find the desired one. And then we right click, isolate layer, and then image, trim to current layer, and export it as a PNG file. This is going to take a while. Okay, it took me around half an hour, but we are back in Unity and we managed to separate all the UI elements that we are going to need from this asset. If you have to make this process, make sure to name your images properly because it can be very helpful and it will save you time later on when you are using them. We place all the images inside the UI folder and then we make sure that we set the type to be Sprite 2D and UI. And also, we can decrease the maximum size to 256 because the images are just small buttons or icons. Then, we are going to make a new folder and call it buttons, and we are going to place all the button sprites in here. To make our game more appealing, we are going to need a proper font. Google Fonts is the perfect site for this, as it provides tons of free fonts and you'll definitely find one that you like. We can write the text that is going to be shown in the preview, in my case it's going to be memory game. After that, we just need to search until we find the font that we like and that is going to look good with our game style and UI elements. Again, I'm not very artistic, so my choice may not be a good fit, and I would love to hear your feedback regarding the font that I picked. My final pick was Rameto 1, and after we picked our font, all we have to do is hit the Download Family button, and we are done with this step. In Unity, we make a new folder named Fonts, and we drop the font that we just downloaded in here. But we are going to use TextMesh Pro, so we go to Window, TextMesh Pro, Font Asset Creator, we place our font as the source font, and then we hit Generate Font Atlas, and we save it. Under Main Menu, we are going to create a new TextMesh Pro element and name it Title. We want our title to be written with capital letters, so we select that option under the font style. Then, we set the text to Memory Game, and we pick a purple color for it. We need to change the font asset to be the one that we just created with TextMesh Pro, and we disable the wrapping mode, because we don't want our title to be split. We set the anchor preset to be middle stretched, and we set the left and right padding to 100. After that, we set the pivot on the y-axis to be 0 and the y position to be 0. We add the content size filter and set the vertical fit to be the preferred size, so that the pivot will always be at the bottom of the text. Then, we change the alignment to be centered, and we play with the font size until we find a good size. I have a feeling that the distance between the lines is too big, so we change the line spacing under the spacing options until we obtain the desired look. Now we want to add the buttons, so we make a new game object under the main menu and we call it buttons. We set the anchor preset to be middle stretched and we set the left and right padding to 100. This time we are going to set the pivot on the y-axis to 1. There are a couple of ways that you can use in order to align your buttons, but never just manually align them in the scene, because if you do that, your UI will not be scalable and it won't look good on all the devices. So, we add an horizontal layout group on our buttons game object, and we only check the child force expand width, because we only want to control the horizontal placement of the buttons with this group. Instead of directly creating a button under buttons, we create a button container, and I will explain you why a bit later. We'll add the button container with the default settings, and we add the button as a child. We set the anchor presets to be top stretched, and we set the pivot on the y-axis to be 1. We make sure that the left, right and y positions are set to 0, and then we add an aspect ratio filter, and the width will control the height with an aspect ratio of 1, because we want our buttons to be squared, and we know that the width is controlled by the horizontal layout group. Then, we set the sprite to be the play button. We are going to have 4 buttons, so we copy the button container 3 times. Now, we are going to play a bit with the settings in the horizontal layout group. First, we set the child alignment to be upper center, and then we select the control child size for the width. The buttons are too big, so we increase the spacing until we are satisfied with the result. We will leave it at 70 for now, and we also add the left and right padding of 20. Now, let me tell you why we have the button containers. We want our buttons to be placed in a curved way, and because the horizontal group is controlling the Y position, we had to place the buttons in containers, and now we can change the Y positions for the buttons. We are going to change the Y position for the second and the third buttons to be lower than the rest of the buttons. -70 should do it for now. In the next step, we are just going to set the right sprites for each button. We are going to have the following buttons: Play, High Score, Shop, and Settings. The last step for buttons is going to be to name them properly. This is very important, and it is always a good practice to give a proper name to your game objects, classes, fields, variables, and so on. We are going to have Start container with Start button, High Score container with High Score button, Shop container with Shop button, and Settings container with Settings button. Okay, this is all for this video, and if you like this series so far, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss the rest of the videos from it. If you have any questions or improvements, make sure to write them in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.